I am actually quite shocked of what's going on out there, friends. I go all over the internet looking at websites for left-leaning, right-leaning, people in the center. I bounce around on Twitter some to try to find you the best and most accurate information. But I've been seeing a trend over the last few days of particularly people on the left side of the political spectrum vehemently and very, very scarily attacking the Supreme Court. I'm going to talk in this video about why they're attacking the Supreme Court, should they be in such a tizzy like they are, and what this may mean going forward, because this has an impact on all of our lives. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. Welcome to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar. I'm an accountant by trade, and we are covering things that the mainstream media is just not covering. Or in this case, what they are covering, but we're going to talk about how they're covering it, because this is crazy. All right, so we have two main court cases that have come down over the last week that has instigated this foaming at the mouth response from the left. The Chevron Difference being basically blown out of the water. This has a whole bunch of people out there on Reddit and such like that talking about how this is going to kill millions of people. Yeah, no exaggeration. This is what they're saying, that it's going to kill millions of people, that it's going to make it impossible for the FDA to inspect our food. It's going to make it impossible for government agencies to protect us. Yeah. So basically, it's pro-terrorist and everything like that. It's absolutely ridiculous, as they say, and this is the first reason why they are very, very upset with the Supreme Court. But then it's the second one here that really hyped them into overdrive. Before they were like simmering at a boil, but now they're just like saying things that they shouldn't. Let's just say it that way. So presidential immunity for official acts for basically whatever the president does in office, if they're not impeached by Congress, they have broad immunity from criminal prosecution, which isn't anything new. Like that's how it's been, right? The general recognition is that if the president misbehaves while in office, while using the official the powers of the president, they are going to be taken apart by Congress, not by the judiciary, not by some local judge in Manhattan or somewhere else, but rather that they are going to be held accountable by Congress. And if they're not held by Congress, then there is not a criminal malfeasance that took place during office. So the Supreme Court basically just enshrined this very much. Now they did delineate, they said, as long as they were official duties of the president, they are protected. Now, it doesn't cover personal or private things that may happen. So it doesn't cover things that someone may do or say that's not an official part of the presidency. Now, when President Trump gave a speech to the people assembled outside the White House on January, the date, the question is, was that part of the official duties? And that's going to be one of the questions that's going to be discussed here. Now, we're talking about broad immunity. The Supreme Court did kind of say that it's broad. It's not like very limited, like super, as long as you meet these tests that you're immune, but rather, as long as you're kind of conducting the general business of the office of the presidency, you're basically immune as long as you weren't doing anything that's like completely personal. Anyway, so they didn't actually delineate what that actually means, and they kicked it down to the lower courts. So the lower courts are going to have to define what does it mean official duty of the presidency and what's private duty. And so there are a number of court cases actually coming at President Trump for his actions or inactions or his words or his thoughts, his intentions, and his just evil heart, as the court cases would say, right? He's evil, so therefore he deserves to be prosecuted, which seems to be the legal argument on some of these cases. So President Trump immediately went out and said, I am fully vindicated. I'm right. And that's not exactly what the Supreme Court said, but it just has the left like foaming at the mouth. The Chevron Difference cancellation. Now, let me explain what the Chevron Difference is. So basically, the Chevron Difference was the idea that if the law passed by Congress is not very specific, or if it kind of has a gray area in there, that basically the regulations, the regulatory agencies can basically just make up a rule. And unless that rule is like reviewed and like overturned by Congress, the rule just kind of stands. So if they say that, hey, and this is kind of how this has been used, fishermen cannot catch more than X amount of fish on one trip between these dates. Well, what's been happening is the U.S. Department of Agriculture or whoever else, it's like, well, then that means we need to inspect those boats to make sure that they're not catching too much fish. And if we have to inspect those boats, well, then who's going to pay for that? Well, why don't we charge a fee to every single one of the fishermen? They have to pay a fee for us to inspect their boat to make sure they don't have too many fish in there. Is that what the law said? No. Did the law institute a tax on fishermen in order to be inspected? No, it did not. But the regulatory agency says, like, yeah, well, it's logically in there somehow. And they get to set whatever the fee they want to set. And you see how this is problematic. And they've been doing exactly like that all across different industries, where they see that they're supposed to regulate something, and then what they do is they then set it up so that basically these industries or these people have to pay the fees in order to receive the review or the regulation. And that's pretty onerous. Like, can you imagine? Like, not only do you have to be inspected when you leave Walmart, but you have to pay a $1 fee to the person at the door to inspect your bags. You could feel how that might rub you the wrong way, right? And you go like, Walmart, why are you doing this? And Walmart's like, what are you talking about? We're not doing this. We just said that someone needs to check your bags before you leave. Yeah? Well, who's charging me the $1? Oh, well, the employee union decided that, it's within the general thing of what we said here at Walmart. So they're basically just charging you that money. And we're just kind of letting them do that. That'd be kind of what Chevron Difference has been abused as. And so there's been like a ridiculous amount of red tape, weird, arbitrary rulings by federal agencies. And basically the courts are saying like, we need to defer to the IRS. We need to defer to the Department of Agriculture. We need to defer to all these agencies. Like if they come up with a rule, unless it's like proven to be extremely onerous or contrary to some actual written law, we're just going to basically say that they're right. They're right. So we just defer to the government agencies that they're right. And so this is what has like the liberals like crazed is this idea that this is going to roll back a lot of the red tape, a lot of the it's going to open up the floodgates for lawsuits from industries who are going to sue the regulatory agencies for all these fees and all these onerous rules that they just kind of conjured up because they don't like freedom and such. They want everything to fit in their box. So I know a lot of people out there in our communities, libertarian, more conservative, kind of less government kind of people are like, well, that's a win. Yay. Chevron Difference is gone. Woohoo. And most people just kind of shrugged their shoulders and like, that's good news, and they just kind of moved on. I'm not sure how that's going to impact my life, but, I'm happy that they made the right ruling on that. Not so on the left. They're stewing and fuming. If you see some of these Reddit posts and stuff like that, it's kind of scary. They're basically, saying like how old people are going to die and this is going to kill millions of people, and therefore they're saying that the Supreme Court is illegitimate. President Biden actually came out and said, Trump's Supreme Court. Now, that's kind of notable coming from the President of the United States, who's supposed to be speaking in such a way that they're communicating official policy, and the President of the United States calling the Supreme Court that they're owned by Donald Trump, that they belong to Donald Trump, not to the country, but to Donald Trump. Donald Trump's Supreme Court. You can start to hear in that AOC, Alexandria or Cortez, whatever, she has drafted up impeachment papers on the Supreme Court. She wants to impeach Supreme Court justices because of these two rulings. That's kind of where I'm telling you, these people are absolutely fuming mad over this. Now, if you're like me, that kind of makes you smile. But it's sweet. It's sweet to see them finally getting some of the dosage of their own medicine of judicial fiat, so to speak. Even though these are basically just solidifying what the law has been in the presidential immunity thing. Like, everybody's gotten that that's how this works. No one's ever tried to go out there and prosecute a president after they leave office before. Like, that's just been unthinkable. Even with the war crimes that happened during George W., right? Even with other things that have happened in the past, nobody's ever even thought about trying to prosecute a president after they leave office, because they understand intuitively that the Constitution, presidents need to be held to account by Congress. But now that we're changing all the rules because, Trump, the idea that they can just throw all the rules out the window and start political prosecutions is something new under the sun. And when the Supreme Court says, no, you still can't do that. Doesn't matter if it's Trump, you still can't do that, right? It's still against the rules. I don't care how mad you are, it's still against the rules. The rules are still the rules. And that's got them just in a tizzy. But the Chevron Difference is a big deal. It potentially has the opportunity to scale back a lot of red tape, a lot of, and with the right president in office, this could be used to strip away a lot of that red tape more efficiently. But through the use of lawsuits, this can be done from the outside now. And that's kind of new. We haven't seen people having the power to go through the court system and to not just challenge the ruling of the IRS on this, but actually challenge the rule from the IRS. Now, that's been kind of tried and done a bit here and there. They go after the interpretation that the IRS has of the law and such. But other agencies, this has not really taken place. Those agencies have basically run the roost and been able to do whatever they want. And no one's been able to actually push back against that, because every time they start pushing back against that, the court hears Chevron Difference precedent. So the agency is always right. I know, it sounds like a spy movie, but the agency is always right has been the motto of the courts for a while now. So how will this impact us moving forward? This upsetness from the left. I don't think AOC is going to be the last person who's going to try to attack the Supreme Court, especially as we move closer to the election in November. We may see that they try to do a more strong-armed attack on the Supreme Court. And I don't know how they pull that off without having the House under their domain, but if they can pull enough Republicans over the aisle, like they usually seem to be able to pull off, they may actually try to roll an impeachment forward against the Supreme Court, or against one of the justices, or all the justices, or some of the justices, or whatever. Or potentially, they have talked about trying to expand the size of the Supreme Court. That would be considered a strong play, and generally understood to be that would be against the rules. But they're desperate. They're like a caged animal, cornered, and they are not thinking straight. And so I'm just telling you what's going on out there. I know the President Biden is definitely thinking along these lines during his few hours of consciousness, and his staff, who spend a lot more hours of consciousness because they're running the country, they are thinking about these things. And don't be surprised when an attack on the Supreme Court comes forward, whether it's expanding them or trying to impeach them or some other methodology to rein in Trump's Supreme Court. That's my warning to you guys. That's what I'm hearing. There's a lot of chatter going on Twitter and on like Reddit and these other places where the leftists tend to gather, and they are hopping mad. And I suspect that they're going to try to attempt to do something soon. All right, friends, I'll keep you updated on anything that develops with that. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. And hopefully that was helpful, explaining what those are and what the rulings actually are and how they'll impact things going forward. Thanks so much for watching. If you want to check out another video from this channel, there's one right up here. I'll see you over there, or I'll see you guys later. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report.